Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Saturday. It's July 26th, and we are seeing some positive developments across the Pulsechain ecosystem. The ranges that we mapped out a couple days ago in our private live stream are being tested, so that's why I want to go over those and give you guys a quick update. But I do think I'll make this a public video. Usually, I want to say my public videos like once a week, maybe on Sundays, but it's Saturday, prices are going up, so why not make it this one? So, hello to everybody out there. It's a video for you all. We're just going to break down everything that I've been talking about with my private community all week, but I guess for everybody on YouTube and or X, this is going to be. There's a lot of stuff in between the last stream from last week that was public and this stream that happened, but you'll get the gist of what we're talking about. I'll try to break it down as clear as possible without taking too much time. And I am traveling at the moment, so I'm not at my home office, so bear with me for the microphone issues. I think I've got it figured out as clearly as possible for not having my interface um, to tweak it to my proper settings, but I'm just using the USB right now, and I think it sounds pretty clear from the test I did, so bear with me there, but we'll be back in the office here in a few days. Just been a whirlwind of a life the past few days. But anyways, so looking at Ethereum, we've been mapping this out for a long time, and even on that last public stream I did on YouTube, I think it was last Sunday, we talked about this 3750 range was a critical area. We hit it, got the test, or we got the target achieved here. And I talked about price slowing down either at 3750 or 4 grand if we were going to keep that momentum. But this big red line, that was an area that I was focused on, thinking like, okay, we could see a slowdown here. And sure enough, price did slow down here. So that's good to see from a structural standpoint. On my Patreon, we talked about all these areas of pullbacks and dips, and we got all those areas confirmed and seeing the bounces off of that. But long story short, we need to see Ethereum get above that 3750 range to really see some solid support structure. Right now, it looks like we're getting a little bit of an ascending triangular pattern. You got this flat top at 3750. You are seeing the higher lows here, so if this thing decides to dip a little bit further, wouldn't be a bad thing at all as long as you continue to see those higher lows. But in a perfect world, you'd want to see Ethereum finally get over the red line, confirm it as support, and then work its way towards 4 grand. Right now, it's not showing us any confirmation of doing that. We just have to wait and see. So I'm not going to dive too deep into Ethereum outside of that. I have plenty of videos throughout the past few days talking about what we want to see in the ranges there. So let's dive right into the Pulsechain ecosystem because that's why I'm streaming today. A lot of positive developments. So you're seeing these yellow ranges being tested that we mapped out the past few days. Good sign, very good sign to see. So looking at Pulsechain on the daily chart, excuse me. Yeah, we had this yellow range mapped out just above this wick that we saw here from about 4 or 5 days ago. We talk about these types of wicks. You always want to see those get filled regardless. So the fact that that wick finally got filled with some structured candles is a good sign to see. Now, we're not out of the woods yet. Like I talked about in our stream 2 days ago, we're not necessarily out of the woods yet. We're just seeing kind of what's necessary happen in the charts in terms of the price moving to the range it needs to move to show us the battle. And then once the battle actually starts at these ranges, that's where you see, okay, who's stronger, the bulls or the bears, or the buyers or the sellers, right? So the good thing is, though, that I wanted to point out, the fact that we did go up and hit these new levels of resistance that we focused on while Ethereum simultaneously was not pumping is a good sign. So Pulsechain's doing this all on its own without the help of Ethereum. So if in a perfect world, Ethereum does want to break that 3750 range and work its way towards 4 grand, you might by default see Pulsechain just get lifted with it. Now, that's a very ideal scenario. That's like perfect. Now, how often does the best case scenario happen in the charts? Not too often, especially in Richard Hart tokens. But you do have the opportunity. That's why I wanted to talk about it on stream. You do have that opportunity to see like, hey, we're getting the resistance before Ethereum decides to pump and bring us up, right? So now there's also the flip side. You can see this resistance area across all of Pulsechain sort of be respected, which structurally, that's not a bad thing. You want to see that structure. So if we do get that resistance tap here in the next few days, kind of see it be respected while Ethereum still flirts under 3750 from a structural standpoint, that's nice and healthy. But again, it can go either way. So, but the fact that we're up here is a good sign. Now, looking at this from the weekly chart, sorry, this computer of mine's kind of funky, but weekly chart talked about we had these higher the all-time low, then you have this higher low in the cycle. Right now, you still have this sort of a little bit of a downtrend that the price is trying to break above, which it looks like it's trying to do that right now. But the ultimate goal in the weekly chart is to get above this yellow range, and then once you break that yellow range on the macro scale, you see all this horizontal price action here with these wicks. That's the next sort of level you want to see the price get up to, because you need to see this local high be broken. You don't want to see this high turn into a lower high. If this yellow range holds supreme, and this is on the weekly, I'm just gonna keep reminding you guys that. So over the next few weeks, couple months, if we don't get above this range, you're just confirming a lower high here. So you absolutely don't want to see that. So the fact that you're seeing a slowdown here on the micro scale is a good thing for short-term structure, but you don't want to see it hold too long in the macro structure. So I think there's a lot of momentum on our side that kind of gives us a reason to look to the upside. So momentum-wise, if I'm taking a guess, flipping a coin, I'm like, okay, I want to get above that. But structurally, we just need to see those confirmations before we get too excited. But one positive thing that's developing on Pulsechain, we've been talking about on every stream I've been doing throughout the week. Hey, give me 1 second. Let me get this for my keyboard. Here we go. Let's put that there. Let's put this here. One positive thing that we're seeing here, and we've been talking about this on the Patreon forever, you have this downtrend on the daily that's been kind of intact since we hit that initial blue resistance range that I just highlighted. We tapped that thing recently, couldn't break it, of course. Then we shot down to test the new lows. And you have this sort of downtrend that holds a lot of weight on the daily. But the good thing about this, you have this high, lower high, and then this attempt at a lower high. The range got broken and retested. So you saw a break of this downtrend and a retest of the downtrend. That's usually a confirmation of a reversal. Simultaneously, you have this consolidating low that we've been focused on since 2-3 weeks ago that finally broke out. Prices came back and retested that range horizontally as from a structural standpoint and from a trendline standpoint. So if you're looking for a confirmation of a breakout, those are the confirmations you look for as a trader, right? So while that all happened, that also gives us a higher low. So you have the low of this downtrend plus a higher low on top of the trend line being broken, on top of the horizontal resistance being flipped to a support. And then you see the price immediately shoot up. So that's a very strong sign. So you're getting all the confirmations you need. So on the micro scale, if you see this yellow range hold as resistance for a little while, no big deal, not a big deal whatsoever. I mean, you'd expect that. You see this wick that kind of covers this whole entire yellow range right there. So if we slow down in this yellow range, wouldn't be shocked, wouldn't be surprised. Even if we pull back, you have this opportunity to set this yellow area that we highlighted on the Patreon a couple days ago as a support line. There's plenty of micro supports to focus on. I'll dive into those throughout the week, and I'll keep you guys posted in my Patreon group. But in the meantime, just understand that the structure is there. We do have the right signs, and we are staring opportunity in the face to see this overall reversal be confirmed, but not only be confirmed, but continue on. So, but we do need to see ourselves get over this yellow range eventually. And the moment we see this yellow range flip as a support line, you'll see me live, probably publicly again, to talk about what I expect to see next. So, and again, just a general overview of what's happening throughout the entire ecosystem. Hex, same thing. Almost the exact same thing, almost. We had the yellow range here tested, which is this horizontal price action we talked about in our stream 2 days ago. Had the wick there getting filled, so price is actually testing the top of the range while the Pulsechain side is testing the bottom of the range. So it's a little bit more strength in Hex. And I know we had a couple people message me about the Hex Pulse ratio. The only time really you're going to see Pulse outperform everything from a ratio standpoint is when the prices are going down. But the moment you see that trend reversal and you see the prices start to move up, you see Hex is immediately coming back up. So we got his low. Actually bounced off our bottom range that we mapped out a couple weeks ago. A perfect bottom out there. I mean, we wicked a little bit lower, but perfect bottom off of this big gray range that we focused on. You're able to get 166 per for the swap. Now it's up to 233. So Hex is getting extremely expensive against Pulse, and I expect to see that continue to happen as the ecosystem. I mean, as the entire ecosystem decides to keep pushing up. So yeah, if everything's going down, Pulse is gonna get strong against Hex. If everything's going up, Hex, incentive token, PulseX, every coin is gonna get strong against Pulse. So that's just a little brief update. I know I saw a couple of requests there, but you see the sideways consolidating part of the chart here. You got that consolidation. You get this big wick to the downside. Pretty much signals a bear trap. You'd like to see volatility in those dips. It's like a big V-shaped sort of pattern. You get that bear trap. In traditional trading markets, you would liquidate people in those scenarios, but to see that happen over here after breaking out of a consolidation is a good sign. Now, the only argument is we didn't necessarily break to the upside just yet, but you have such strength in this such strength and volatility here in this move that yeah, you want to see this range get above all of this horizontal price action. You see all these bottoms here, this general range. Look at all these wicks here. You got the bottom there, wick tested in this green range. Look at all this sideways action here. Bit of a top in this range, almost a top in this range, resistance there. Price is tapping it right now, so you do want to see the price get above the 233. So if all that yellow resistance on the charts we just highlighted does break, you're going to see this thing break above. But if we start seeing that resistance hold and prices push back, you might see this pull back, maybe flirt with the green range a little bit. So again, everything's at a critical resistance. Ethereum, Pulse, Hex, we're all touching critical resistances right now. So actually, let me flip this back to the USD chart. Oh wait, what did I do? Hang on. Market cap. Let's go back to USD. There we go. So yeah, Hex is just working on the same range. Won't really beat a dead horse, repeating the same information that we kind of know what to expect here. So all I'm really focused on is what do we do in this range? And let's say this range does hold as a resistance. Well, now this prior range of the 72 that we had highlighted earlier in the week, you have that opportunity to go set some support there. So there's a ton of areas of structure, right? In the 67 range, that was that institutional wick that we saw when we first broke out of this local low. We confirmed that as a support line while we got that dip last week or earlier this week. So yeah, we have plenty of opportunities to set structure. You can retest the 67. I don't see price wanting to go that low anytime soon, but even if, this range does hold, I would say if price wants to push real low to the lower 70s, I would want to see that 72, 73 range be the absolute lowest to continue or show a continuation in strength in this move here. So a lot of opportunities, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself without seeing the actual price, the price chart develop. So, but just for reference, let's say if and when we do break, you see all these, look at all this wick action down here, all those wicks, doji engulfing candle here, extended over, precision with resistance area there, kind of like what we saw in Pulse. That's 99.83. It's basically a penny, right? So once you get past this yellow range that we're focused on, once we get above that, confirm that as a support line, you're talking penny, Hex, and it's a psychological level too. So even if there was no support there, it's a psychological level. How many people bought in at, the 45, 46 range, 50 range, half penny, just to get with the anticipation to get out of the penny, right? So you'll see a massive resistance wave come when that time does happen. So, but it's a realistic conversation to be happening, right? To be having, sorry. At these ranges, the lows, we were just focused on breaking all this previous, structure. Now we're talking about a penny Hex in the future. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. So we are having better conversations. The resistance we're looking at now and the support that we're looking at now is much higher than what it was a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the massive Hex selling wallet and everything. So it's just a much better conversation. Feels a lot like a bull market. Feels a lot like the altcoin season, right? It's just a matter of, what's in the Richard Hart cards, right? And I saw he had, I think, 200,000 of those electronic mailers ready to be distributed. So we're going to start seeing some massive marketing. He claims to be, it was never before seen type of marketing. So depending on how effective that is, we might see something strong. I mean, you're right. It could be a buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing, but I don't really see that being a buy sell situation. But the worst thing that can happen is just the marketing doesn't work and we just got to figure out something else. So, but there's a lot of reasons, right, to see the glass is half full on this side of the ecosystem. So That's Hex. Incentive token. Ladies and gentlemen, especially in the Patreon, we've been talking about this. We need to get above the $1.70 range, and we finally got above $1.70. Well, to $1.70. We're at $1.70 right now. So we tested it one time, bounced right off, right? And to get you guys a quick refresher, so our big focus on the incentive token all the past few weeks, this consolidating range, we needed to get above $1.57, right? This red range. We called that dip at $1.28, couldn't break above $1.57. Now we got above $1.57. Now we're testing $1.70. So I know a few of you have been messaging me about what to expect. What we need to see is a clear support line at $1.57, which you do have a little bit of that. You see this horizontal action and it finally broke above. Let's say worst comes to worst and the ecosystem and Ethereum and everything wants to respect the ranges we just highlighted. Even if this respects $1.70, you have the opportunity to fill this $1.57, $1.60 range as a support line now. So if price wants to push down, create a new floor here to basically give us a launch pad to get above $1.70, we need to see $1.70. We absolutely need to see $1.70 eventually get pushed and broken and set as a support line. And then, of course, we talked about it on my last stream in the Patreon. You're talking $2 plus if and when that happens. So around the same time, we're going to see a 1 cent hex. You're probably seeing like a $2.10 incentive token. And they both have the same opportunities to create some structure. But incentive tokens finally taking that next step up. We've been stuck around or below or at $1.57 since June, early June. It's been almost 2 straight months of consolidating. So once this thing finally decides to break, it's gonna blow. It's gonna blow. There's an extreme amount of tension here. So I would assume and hope that when incentive token decides to have its day and go up, it's gonna pull everything else up with it. But it's finally good to see. Hey, we're at $1.70. Right now, it looks like the price cannot break above it. We did have a wick there a few days ago, so this may or may not turn into a wick. But if it turns into a wick, it's all right. Opportunity to set $1.50 as a floor or $1.57 as a floor. Let's get this red line support, boom, and let's just work on creating our next push up. So, yeah, we have a lot of opportunity ahead of us across all the tokens. PulseX, now this one's looking strong. Now this is the only one that's broken above, in terms of Richard Hart tokens, that's broken above the actual yellow range. So that's good to see. And this is on the 1 hour chart, so it's a micro analysis. That's where I left you guys off at. But remember when we left off on stream, we could not break this yellow range here last time we talked about it. So we highlighted testing the blue as trying to find a local higher low or even the purple. But when we did bounce off that range, we came down and did tap that blue range. It was just a quick tap, so we did technically create some support there. I was expecting it maybe to linger on a little later on around where I highlighted, but we did test the blue range as a micro support, so we are above the above the yellow range. But let's take this to the daily chart to give you guys more of a macro kind of view of things. So how this daily candle closes is important. If it closes as a wick, like we had these past 2 times, we're not necessarily out of the woods yet. But, I mean, we almost got to our red target range of that 28 range. So, really what you're paying attention to in the PulseX side of things. And, by the way, PulseX is an extremely good-looking chart. So, higher lows consistently. The trend is moving up. But we do want to see this thing just fill this wick right here and start testing this red range at 28 as the next level of resistance. So, hopefully we can see that close as opposed to seeing this wick close and have the candle not finish above this yellow range. But if it does, it's not the end of the world. At least we're getting, yesterday we got the candle finishing in the range. Today we're getting the candle break above. So we are seeing hints of the pressure starting to build and wanting to break. So yeah, let's just focus on this yellow range we've been talking about all week. But the important thing here is just to see where does this candle decide to close today. Excuse me. And that's been fantastic. So in the Patreon, we've been mapping out the Pulsechain's wrapped Bitcoin. This chart's been looking fantastic. We got above the purple targeted range. We hit our yellow target now. We're at that psychological $1,000 range on Pulsechain wrapped Bitcoin. So we're seeing the pullback here. No shocker. This chart was extremely bullish while everything else was pulling back. So this is kind of moving to the beat of its own horn or the beat of its own drum. If this thing pulls back, you can look at our purple target range as a new area to set the floor, or even this institutional candle here at the 876. So between 840 and 876, is where I'm kind of looking at for the Pulsechain wrap Bitcoin for the people that have been requesting that. So let's focus there for now, but let's let this thing play out. I mean, it's moving, so I feel like it's a little bit ahead of the curve. The PDI chart, map this out for you guys too. PDI, you don't want to see the double top here. Right now, we're still showing signs of a double top. We do have this horizontal bottom here, and go back to all my streams this week. You'll see exactly why we don't want to see the double top and why what PDI showed us in the past when it's double topped. So you have this horizontal sort of ascending triangle pointing to the downside. The more it taps this horizontal range, the weaker it gets. Now, the only bright thing I can talk about here is that this gray range that we had as a target did get achieved a few weeks ago. But it hasn't really been filled, and it hasn't been, like look at this doji engulfing candle, the big white doji, big white engulfing. You extend that middle range over, you got a wick there. So the middle of this gray range is still a good area if things needed to pull back. But yeah, if we don't get this double top, I'm expecting to come test this gray range. And then, of course, the next target up, as we talked about in the past, is you want to see this thing push to the 75 range, assuming that 5-wave pattern would be successful. Right now in the macro scale, you got the wave 1, wave 2 correction, wave 3 impulse. Wave 4 was really small, so you wanted to see the wave 5 push and break, but the wave 5 is not showing any sign of strength right now. So, yeah, that's kind of, nothing's really changed on the PDI side of things. So just pay attention to this horizontal support, see if that can hold. And then you got our 2 ranges above and below on the macro scale. And I'll keep you guys updated throughout the week on as the things develop. And then really the best looking chart, PTGC. This PTGC chart is just looking extremely beautiful. It hit our target, right? We had the purple range there simultaneously with the Pulsechain wrap Bitcoin. Hit our first range. Our next range we talked about 2 days ago was the 65 range. We hit that. It's already been hit, and it's been broken. So we're already looking at the next level up, which this chart is actually moving faster than I update it. So the one chart that's moving fast that that I can't even keep up with on my daily streams because it keeps hitting new levels is the PTGC. So just looking at previous structure, that's all we're just working on. Just knocking out these levels one by one. PTGC moving back to the past. You got these wicks here, these candles moving sideways here, this resistance wick here. Just extend that over. It looks like it's not my target because I didn't point it out because my target was at 65, but the fact that this thing wants to be an overachiever, now we're sitting at the 70 range. So we do have structural resistance there that's being tested as we speak. It is the 70 range, another psychological level. So the fact that we're seeing some resistance here, no shocker. PTGC, you're in fantastic shape, ladies and gentlemen. Even if this thing wants to pull all the way back down to 61, that's an area of opportunity for support. 65 area of opportunity for support. So if this resistance wants to hold, which it probably should for the structural purposes, even if it wanted to go all the way down to 53.93, that 54 range, you have plenty of areas to see some structural support. But this is a fantastic looking chart, and you can be creating a macro scale uptrend, right? Like you can be, like you have the all-time low, then you have the high, right? Then you create a little bit of a higher low. Let's say you do create a higher high if it does stop there. You have all of this area, anything above the green, to create higher lows and stay above the previous local highs. So this chart's in great shape. Let's just see what happens in this resistance range. You have a couple levels beneath to set the floors. So we'll talk about that throughout the week as the chart develops. And then the E-Hex chart. I know there's some E-Hexicans out there. E-Hex looking good. I mean, look at this yellow range that we mapped out a while ago. Yellow range is up here. It's tested. We flipped the support. So what we wanted to see earlier this week was breaking this local low or the local high of July. We broke the local high. Not only broke it, but we set a floor there too. So there is some proper structure on the E-Hex chart. It's just getting to our range now that we focused on. We set this range like I think 5 or 6 days ago. So it's finally come up. It's kind of like the Pulsecoin chart where it's hitting the bottom of the range instead of the top. So we'll just see what happens. I mean, you fulfilled the wick just like everything else we've seen. So it's kind of the same analysis as the regular hex chart, as the Pulsechain chart. So yeah, I mean, you have this little high here. It's almost a double top high. So maybe the 22 range is a micro support level if it wants to test this range of resistance here. So I won't dive too deep into it because it's going to be repetitive at that point. had a liquid loan and a UFO. These are requested by people in our Patreon. I'll talk about those specifically in the Patreon. But yeah, just reach out to me via message in the Patreon if you have any specific requests or questions. And just wanted to give you guys a quick update for all the public. And Ethereum, yeah, look at Ethereum. It looks like it wants to push a little bit lower down, right? I think I had an update 2 days ago. We talked about this 3660 range was a good area to find a top instead of floor. We did find the top, but we didn't set the floor there. So, oh no, we did. Wait, when was the last time I was streaming? I was streaming not Friday. I was streaming Thursday. Okay, I was streaming here. So I was streaming right here, and I talked about the 3660 range being a good support. We actually broke below that and came and tested our 3580 range again. Higher high there. So I think this 3660 range is still a good area to focus on, up to 3700 flat. Now, this is super micro analysis, but yeah, pay attention to Ethereum the rest of the day today, ladies and gentlemen. This is an extremely important test or battle we're fighting. You see these higher lows here with the flat top. We got an ascending triangle. Now we are showing signs of a lower high. We don't want to see lower high, so it's critical. I don't know what's going to happen. It's a coin flip, but just pay attention. If we break underneath this trend line here, it's going to confirm the lower high, and you can see a volatile push to the downside, right? If this thing breaks above, you would love to see in a perfect world the ascending triangle break and push above the 3750, get above this local high, which happened earlier this week, and then come set this floor, right? So in a perfect world, you get a little bounce here, come up, set the floor, and then work at 400. That's a perfect world. But if this thing reigns supreme, this resistance line we've been focused on, you can see a volatile drop down to the 3580 range again. You still have this level, and you still have this low range at 34, right? So I'm not going to sit here and project too far into the future, but we do have a very, very critical battle being played right now. This ascending triangle, something to pay attention to. You initially had the head and shoulders, the shoulder, the head, kind of a shoulders. That sort of invalidated the shoulder. So it's not that's a good sign. That's a good sign to kick a bit of a bearish sentiment. But yeah, just pay attention to this battle. This Ethereum battle is critical because if this thing breaks below, I would expect everything on the Pulsechain side to be respected. All those yellow ranges we've been focusing on, I would expect those to hold as resistance, and then we just have to focus on finding some support lines. But yeah, let's all pull for Ethereum and cheer. And if Ethereum could get above this range, that'd be fun and exciting. Now, that's just me as an investor hoping for prices to go up. That's not me as an analyst saying like, hey, I think it's going to happen. That's just me, just like every one of us. We want to see our bags go up at this point. As long as I'm assuming we all filled our bags at the lows, right? Which I know a lot of us did. So, but yeah, that's all I got for today, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you guys later.